So this fabric manufacturing process basically involves of weaving, knitting, and braiding. Weaving basically means the formation of warp and weft for the woven structures. So basically there are these are the main parts: plain weave, twill weave, and satin weaves. And in twill weave you can see that twill weave is a form of a diagonal weaves. Here the diagonal lines can be seen on the twill weaves, whereas for sateen these are for weft yarns. And plain weaves, one warp and one weft, means this one is warp, this one is weft, one up one down, one up one down. For this type of weaves are known as sateen weaves. Other weaves include basket weaves, that is a modified format of plain weave. We will also discuss with these aspects. So this is a typical process of these this winding, warping, sizing, drawing, and then weaving is done. So how this weaving aspects is done in this weaving is done to remove the objectionable fault. Here in this weaving you just prepare the bobbin, and the package is prepared so that the warper's beam can be produced in the warping process. So once warper's beam is produced, you just have to insert the pick, and there are ends and picks. So ends are for this warper's beam you will prepare, and then you will insert the picking process only, and you will insert the weft, and the fabric can be manufactured easily. So if I talk about warping process, then warping in this warper's beam is produced, and these can be produced by either of the beam warping or sectional warping machine. Sizing it improved because we size materials we have applied during the winding and other processes during the yarn fabric manufacturing process. So size means the impurities, the other adhesives that we have put onto the fiber, the yarn. Basically it comprises of starch, gum, and other fatty and oily substance. These are removed. These are not removed, these are put onto this yarn. Why these are put? Because so as to provide the strength to the yarn of the fabric. But in the chemical processing we do the desizing part. Desizing means the size is removed. Here we are doing the sizing process so that it should be able to adequate to handle the high pressure and high stress of the during the fabric manufacturing. Also it improves the mechanical properties such as tensile strength and abrasion resistance of this yarn as well. So looking forward to this, these are drawing. In drawing what happens is these are every warp and weft are drawn through the eyes and the reeds. So these are different motions of the weaving motion. There are three main motions. One is primary motion, second one is secondary, and third one is auxiliary motion. Shedding, picking, and beating is done. And taking forward, there are stop motions. Suppose during the fabric manufacturing process, if one thing stops, then the loom is stopped. So there are mechanisms how can we look forward to stop the machine. So if warp yarn is broken, then the warp stop motion, and if weft yarn is broken, then weft stop motion is there. How, what is shedding, picking, and beating? Matlab it is, these are the process of this primary motions of this fabric. So shedding, in shedding these are different layers are produced, two separate layers. Then in picking, weft is inserted and beat up, these both are beaten up, and warp and weft fabric is produced. So this is a typical process of these motions. So in basically you can see this is what I was supposed to tell you, ki how these things actually works. So these are different aspects on which these properties of this fiber and yarns depend. So talking about further about the wet processing aspects, so these are preparation, coloration, and finishing process. Preparation means singeing, desizing, scouring, bleaching, mercerization. So in singeing what happens is now our fabric is produced. Now we have to do all other chemical treatments. For the singeing you will remove all the protruding fibers, and other fibers are removed by singeing process. Desizing, size is removed. Scouring, fats are removed. Bleaching, it is done by reducing agents, oxidizing agent, so to make fabric more white. So then heat setting is done, and finally the mercerization, so as to make it more softer and bulkier kind of thing. Then coloration, dyeing and printing is done with the help of these different types of dyes, and different types of printing treatments are done. So also the finishing treatments, if we talk about starch finishing, resin finishing, water repellent, flame retardant, these are different finishes that are used. So looking forward, these are different kind of dyes that I was telling for. These are, one are water soluble dyes and other one is water insoluble dyes. Suppose if I talk about wet dyes, so wet dyes are water insoluble dyes, means if you dissolve wet dyes in water, they will not be dissolved easily. So these the insoluble form of the wet dye is converted into leuco form of the wet dyes. So these are converted into leuco wet dyes, then they are made soluble, and further after the use they are also made that insoluble kind of thing. So one is dye, the other one is pigments. So pigments do not have the affinity for the fiber, whereas dye have the affinity for the fiber. The meaning is that the dye will absorb onto the fibers, or it will have affinity or attraction towards the fiber, whereas in pigments they don't have any attraction towards the fiber. So either the fiber is attracted or not attracted, they are rarely cared of. So these are different types of yarn manufacturing process. In this what are different kinds of bonds that are prepared for this process, that is very important. As far as polyester is concerned, dispersed dyes are used, and for cellulosic, direct wet dyes are used. Which types of bonds are formed with this cellulosic and direct dyes? So van der Waal and hydrogen bonds are formed, whereas in case of reactive dyes, covalent bonds are formed.